Okay. We'll just give everyone a second to kind of join the live stream. Okay.
All right. Well, I think people are on. Maybe we should give it like
I think
just 1 minute.
Yeah, we'll just give it one more minute.
Okay. Well, hello to those of you who are here if you're on, or maybe we're just talking to no one right now.
No, I think a couple people have commented. Colby, Don Ron. Oh, hello from Ohio,
wow,
Gulf
that's
Coast.
Far.
Awesome. It's so good to have all of you guys. We're super excited to present. We've been doing van life for how long now? 2-3 years.
2-3 years, yeah.
Kind of just starts to blur. We are currently building out a new bus, so we're excited to kind of dive into that a little bit. We're also excited. We'll take a few moments throughout the live to answer some questions. And yeah, so we're pretty stoked.
Yeah, so we're Jake and Tiana. Like Jake said, we've been doing it for 2 years, which is kind of crazy, I think. And we first started out in Layla. I don't know if you guys follow our socials, but it was in Layla. It was our first bus. This bus that you're seeing is not it. It's just a bus in Hawaii that we rented. But yeah, we'll go on with the slide that we have for you guys.
Yeah, so we prepared kind of a little presentation for you with photos. And like I said, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the comments. And we'll kind of address them as we go. If any of those questions, relate to things we're directly going to be talking about in the slide, we'll wait just a little bit to address those. So yeah, we're talking about what it's like to live out of, travel, and own a VW bus. We've owned over 10, and we've built out several, and we actually don't even have a modern vehicle.
No.
So that's like all we drive.
So our story, so it started off, Jake bought me a bus, this green bus that you're seeing. He bought it for me for Valentine's Day. It's always been my dream to live out of one. Like, I can't even, ever since I was in high school, my mom knows, all I wanted to do is talk about VW buses. So in 2021, did we buy the bus in 2021? So he bought it for me on Valentine's Day. Our goal was to just, use it for weekend camping.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was going to be. I bought it for her just like let's go camping on the weekends. It's always what you've wanted. We never even thought that we would live in it full time. That was not on my mind.
I don't think it was on mine because I just thought my dreams were unrealistic, as a lot of people probably do. So yeah, we sold the bus, or let's go to here first. Like I said, I loved buses. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy. His name is James Barkman. That's kind of who inspired me. I saw videos on YouTube, and he was living out of his beat up bus, and he was in Portland, and he became a photographer, and he's a really amazing photographer now. And so he really inspired me, and I ever since we were married, I'd always talk about him. I'm like, look, this is what I want to do with my life. This is so amazing.
Yeah, you can see Tiana in the picture in the back.
Yeah.
Next to that yellow VW bus, man. It was just, she always talked about him,
Yeah, but I never knew what kind of it entailed, I guess.
Yeah, it entails a lot, and we're definitely going to get into that for sure.
Yeah, but like I said, in 2021, we bought Layla, and then we decided to go on this trip to Moab. So if you don't know, when you own a vintage vehicle, there's a lot of get-togethers?
Yeah, there's a lot of meetups and drives and caravans and stuff like that.
And we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, our motor blew. As Jake picked it up and it blew up, and so he was on these forums asking questions, and then so that's how we got to know about this event.
Yeah, so the event was called the Lynn Ottinger VW event, and this was kind of like our van life test run, right? So at the time we didn't really know it was, but
we weren't planning on living.
No, we weren't. We just went on this trip as a trip. So we drove to Moab, and it was crazy, you guys. I can't even describe what it was like. We went. They told us we were just gonna go on a nice cruise, and 40 minutes later, we were completely off-road, rock crawling in. There were
Yeah.
a line of us. There was probably like 20 VW buses.
It was insane, and not to mention on the way there, it was only gonna be a 5 hour road trip for us. It turned into like 12 because we were broken down. But we got it fixed. It was so amazing because we were broken down on the side of the road, and these guys pull up, and there's like a line of buses.
Yeah,
Do
a
you
line of
remember?
buses pulled up behind us, and they were like, "Hey, do you need any help?"
Yeah, it was so cool, and I think they helped us, and then we got on the road,
Yeah.
and we were able to make it there. But like, I think that moment was kind of like an awakening for us. Like, whoa, like there's this like huge community
Yeah,
of people who are so willing to help you.
so helpful. Like that's one thing. If you own a Volkswagen, it is definitely like a family. People you don't even know, and we'll talk about that later. We have a couple really good stories, but people you don't even know will just help you for free for no reason, just because they love Volkswagens.
Yeah.
And in Moab, I mean, that trip was so scary because
It was
it was the first time I had driven manual since like high school. So we just bought the van. The motor was starting to go out, and we were going up these steep inclines with a huge cliff on the side. These tiny little roads you can't turn
my
around in.
gosh.
So like the only way out was off a cliff or like up these crazy trails.
Yeah, and not to mention our engine was
It was struggling.
going out.
Yeah, it was struggling. And at the time, I didn't really know that much about how to work on them, and we'll kind of talk about all of those things, working on a Volkswagen, what it's like. Everyone says that they're super unreliable, but I think
there's truth to that.
there's
but...
some truth to that, but at the same time not. So
Yeah, but like we said, it was our test run. It was. What's funny about it is this trip was like a nightmare almost.
Yeah.
But it's what really like pushed us.
yeah, we ended up, even though it was a crazy trip, we ended up loving it, and we talked about van life, and we were like, man, this is so fun. Like we should try this. And it's what kind of pushed us to, we actually sold our house, sold our cars, and we decided to just build out our bus. But, like I said, it was our test run, and we encourage like anyone that wants to do van life, whether it's like a VW bus or not, to try it out first, like rent something or try it in your car or anything, because you will very quickly know if it's for you or not. Like,
yeah. I mean, and if things go bad, I mean, like, I don't know, just don't make it, what's the word? Just don't get scared, because our first trip was terrible.
Yeah, and
but we
we still loved it.
loved it so much because we learned so much, and we were I don't know, we just felt so vulnerable, and something in that just kind of like made us want to do it more.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like I said, we definitely recommend people trying out van life first as a test run. And there's a lot of ways you can do it.
Yeah.
And it will kind of help you, it'll give you like a realistic idea of what you're going to need, and like, because everyone's needs are different.
Yeah, or even if it's for you, because there's been so many people who like they buy these sprinters.
Yeah, buy really expensive vans.
And then they're like, wait, this isn't for me. Or like, oh, it's not like what people show. Because what people show on social media, which we're guilty of too,
I know.
we show the highlights, We're not showing like, oh, this trip we also broke down like 5 times. Like, we're just showing the fun side of it, which we definitely need to be better about that. Be a little more realistic,
Right.
So this was supposed to be a video for you guys, but for some reason it's not working. This is from our first trip. Jake was ripping up a hill.
Yep. And it was funny because
it looked epic.
these old vans are so quirky. Like, our horn wasn't working, so when we would hit a bump, like a huge rock or something, our bus would honk like for no reason.
Oh, and then our door. Remember
Yeah,
our
and
door?
everyone was like cheering us on because they thought we were honking, but I'm like panicking, and our bus is honking by itself, and then our door stopped latching, And so we had to like grab a strap and pull the door in
the
and
middle of it, because like we couldn't stop because there's people behind us,
Yeah.
and we had to have the momentum to get up these hills.
yeah, and we did like a river crossing, and then water came up through the floor, but like it was such a fun time. Like these cars are so quirky and unique, and they have their own personality, but that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. Like I know a lot of people in the summit are going to be talking specifically about van life, and we will mention a bunch of stuff about it, but we kind of wanted to focus like on VW buses or all old vehicles, and it's kind of a different world.
Yeah.
Then it's worth it. Don't get me wrong, we love it, but it is a completely different world than like owning a split window, or than owning like a ProMaster or a school bus or whatever. So that's kind of what we're going to go into right now, like why we chose Volkswagen, what specifically draws to it. Even though if you like look up, VW bus for van life, like everything online is going to be like, oh, don't do it, it's unreliable, it's expensive, it's this and this, that, it's that. But we wanted to kind of present the information as accurate as possible because we have done it, so we can like tell you accurately what it's really like.
Yeah, and you should also tell them, because prior to this, prior to you picking up Layla, our first bus, you knew nothing. Like
I had zero mechanical
Jake
skills.
Jake didn't even know how to find the dipstick for the oil in a modern car. Like he was that clueless.
It was bad, you guys. Like her mom was worried when she told her that she was going to marry me. Like he doesn't even know how to take care of a car. Like I really didn't. So like, going into first, the downsides like we just discussed. Here's a picture of me with a motor out of our bus in Florida. They say that they're unreliable. For the most part, it's because most people that buy them do not take care of them. Mm-hmm. It's not a brand new car with a computer that's telling it what to do. It's all purely mechanical, right? So you have to do maintenance more regularly. And that's kind of the big hiccup that the people have, So you have to be willing to get your hands a little dirty or pay a ton of money to mechanics that you might not trust. Because we do all of our own mechanical work. Mm-hmm. We just don't trust anyone anymore. Like you never know. So upside, obviously, they are the coolest looking car ever. Right.
Yeah, they're so fun, and they can be pretty reliable, honestly.
They can't. I mean, like we have a buddy who broke down, pulled out his stick of gum to plug a vacuum leak on the carburetor, and then just kept driving. Like he fixed it. Or we broke down in Oregon on an icy road.
Oh.
And
Memories.
it was the cable to our accelerator pedal broke. So I had my like foot on the pedal, and all of a sudden on the freeway it went poof. And we had no pedal, just gone. And we pulled off the side of the road and climbed under there. And we had baling wire or like chicken wire or something like that.
Yeah.
We tied it to it and strung it under the bus all the way to the back of the motor. And we got it to work enough to where we drove home. Like when you have mechanical problems in like a ProMaster or a school bus or anything like that, sometimes it can be expensive. It can be really expensive. Finding mechanics can be hard. You literally can fix like roadside repair a Volkswagen pretty easy because of how simple they are.
Yeah, and just to answer your question, we are not from Florida. We drove all the way from we were in New Mexico all the way down to Florida, and then as soon as we got to Florida, that's when our motor blew. So that was fun. Yeah,
we're not from Florida. We actually, I grew up in Utah and Tiana grew up in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. But Florida is one of the places that we went to. So kind of when we first started, we kind of didn't really discuss like where we went. Like our first year, we like went from Utah up to Montana, Idaho, Oregon, down to California and across. And on that trip, we didn't know what we were doing. We had several breakdowns.
We didn't know anything about the engines. Yeah. And we didn't know the engine we had was faulty.
Yeah. We paid someone to build us a new motor. And this is one of the biggest things for like reliability in a Volkswagen is knowing like the community, like having people that work on them. Like I have a bunch of friends that I can call and bounce ideas off of, and like I've helped a ton of people. There's actually someone I'm helping literally right now, like
Literally.
in between this video call, I'm helping someone with a bus. But we had multiple breakdowns. But the crazy thing is, you guys, is every single time we were able to get it running again. And we'll talk a little bit more about like breakdowns, because that's something that like a lot of people are scared about van life. Like, oh my goodness, like what if
Yeah.
I break down? Like what happens then? Right?
Yeah, I feel like that was our worry too. But
Yeah.
it's funny, that was like our biggest worry. And then we had so many breakdowns just because we didn't know what we were doing. But we just kind of learned to like, you learn a lot. You learn to adapt and just like problem solve with each other. And yeah, so I think it's really helpful. So that was our first year of van life, was breakdowns. And
amidst all of the breakdowns and hardships, you guys, there is no better feeling than being in a line of Volkswagens driving through the woods. We took a trip with our friends to the coast, and we drove to the Oregon coast and went surfing and had a fire on the beach.
So fun.
In these vintage Volkswagens circled up. It is euphoric. It is incredible. And when you're driving, this is another huge upside. It makes everyone so happy.
Oh yeah, I love it. Everyone at the gas station comes up to you and they tell you their story and how they grew up with them.
My great grandma had one, or everyone can like relate in some way or another, whether it's like watching Herbie the Love Bug way back in the day, or
Yeah, it really, like, you find a connection with strangers, and then even like people who own them, they just instantly like take you in as their own.
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
like
fun.
a complete stranger like can be like, oh, I have this Volkswagen, and then all of a sudden you're just like best friends.
Yeah,
It's so funny. Yeah, there's nothing quite like van meetups. It is so fun. So we kind of talked a little bit about some of the cons, and we talked about some of the pros. It makes people super happy. They're actually easy to work on. You enjoy the journey, like you have to, because you're going like top speed 60 miles an hour, man. Like, it is the definition of going slow and like enjoying the ride.
Yeah, we've definitely had a lot of people flip us off.
Yeah,
dude. We're going so slow, but it's like
they don't know, and then they just like pull out in front of us and like flip us off because but it's when you are in that type of car, it helps you like appreciate the simple, important things in life, and that's one thing we really love about it.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so any other single people on here that have a VW? The multiple breakdowns is what I'm afraid of.
Yeah,
we get it.
We get it, yeah. I mean, there's so many people. It's so crazy. I understand that I'd be afraid to be alone, but actually, I'm sure he doesn't mind us talking about him, but our buddy just drove all the way from Connecticut to here, and he's alone, all by himself.
He was alone,
and he broke down, and he called Jake. He's like, I don't know what to do.
So this is the perfect example of like surviving with a VW.
Yeah.
He actually, our friend that we're helping him with his bus right now, he drove from Connecticut all the way to Utah, and halfway through in South Dakota, he started hearing this clicking noise. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's important to be like part of Facebook groups, like VW Facebook groups are essential for your survival with a Volkswagen.
I wish we knew about it when we started.
We didn't. And then we eventually figured it out, and we have friends. So knowing other people with Volkswagens is important, because if something does happen and you're not super mechanically inclined, you can post on there. And like Luke called me because he knows me, and I immediately started making calls and doing posts on Facebook pages. And then what ended up happening is someone from this little podunk town in South Dakota was like, hey, I actually live there. I've got a shop. He can swing by.
Yeah.
And he helped him. They packed it full of grease. The CV was having issues, so they packed it full of grease. He helped him, and he was able to drive the rest of the way to Salt Lake, where I'm helping him and make sure that everything else is good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm sorry to say this, but owning a VW will break down. In any modern car, you're going to break down, but yeah, you just kind of learn to how to trust other people, not too
Yeah.
much. Don't
The
trust
the
people too
big
much, but
difference is like let's say you're driving and then your fuel pump goes out, right? Um if your fuel pump went out in let's say like a Mercedes, like a Mercedes van, and oh, you got to take it to a specialty person to work on it. Oh, the fuel pump is $700, and oh, it's inside of the tank, so it's going to cost another however much to access it. And then there's a second one, and like it's just so much more complicated. A fuel pump in like an old split window bus is like $40 and takes like 15 minutes to put it in, and literally a 5-year-old could do it. Like I'm telling you, yes, you it's not a matter of if you'll have breakdowns, you probably will, but most of the time they're pretty easy and they're pretty simple. And
and you
if
feel good.
yeah, you feel so good.
Feels
Like when
so
you
good.
fix something and you're like, like she said, I had never ever worked on a Volkswagen, but I was willing to learn. I think that's super important. I got a manual. Someone mentioned the John Moyer How to Keep Your VW
Oh
Alive.
yeah,
Awesome book. I really like the
definitely get a bunch of books
yeah.
like
The
that.
the Bentley manual is more helpful for me for showing actual how things go together. But if you're willing to like watch YouTube videos and get a manual, you can pretty much fix anything on these cars. There's very few things that you can't fix, you know. So, it really helps to have a manual. Like I said, regular maintenance, you know, there's this picture of my buddy working on his bus. Having basic knowledge of your bus is really important, and you know, as long as you keep up with that, you should be okay, you know. And even if like your motor blew up, they're pretty cheap to rebuild. Honestly,
You just gotta find the right person.
it's just finding, you know, people you trust. And that goes back to part of the community, you know, posting like, hey, who do you on Facebook or something, who do you guys
recommend?
trust, who do you recommend?
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's super helpful. So yeah, someone mentioned the how to keep your VW alive. We're kind of doing a crash course on just VWs in general.
Yeah.
The different ones. A lot of people ask us. We get questions about that all the
Oh
time.
yeah. They're like, which
Just,
ones would you recommend?
What do you recommend? Which bus? Is this one okay? What's the difference?
Yeah,
So-
and like they're all different. Like Craig said, I mean, they're raising in price a lot. But like we'll discuss like you should
Yeah,
mention
Craig
like the
from
prices.
New York. I started with a 68 Westphalia. That was our first bus. Layla was a 68. I bought it for 800 and sold 3 years later for 1200. Wish
Yeah.
you could still buy them for that price. Man,
Oh yeah.
people were giving them away for free back
People
in the
were
day.
you know, someone who threw it off a cliff. 'Cause
Yeah,
he was just like it's junk.
We know someone that shot his bus with a gun
I can't believe it.
and then pushed it off a cliff. And if he hadn't done that, that bus would have been, I think it was like a double cab, so it would have been like a $80,000 bus if he kept it.
Yeah.
But it's like at the bottom of some ravine somewhere, just crazy. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is Vanagons, and that's kind of the most what we've been posting on our social media pages. We bought an '83 Vanagon. Vanagons, you can call them VW buses, yeah.
they are.
They are.
You
Little
just
little
doesn't
little
like 'em.
differences. I kind of get a little snobby sometimes, but Tiana likes Vanagons. I bought it for her because she decided she wanted a Vanagon.
Well, I wanted it as like my future mom car, so we were
Yeah.
just gonna store it somewhere as we travel, but things
Yeah.
change.
So Vanagons were 1980 to 91. Here's just a picture of a bunch of them. Top left is a tin top. That means when you hear guys say tin top, it's talking about
None.
nothing on the roof. It's just the whole metal roof plain, right? Just like a normal passenger van. All right, then to the right of that is a Westie.
Yeah, I think that's what people mostly see.
Mostly
online
see,
and
yeah, with the
stuff.
pop top camper. That one is a second generation. The headlights are squared, and it has a water cooled engine. So that is the closest in a VW bus you can get to a modern car. You can get power steering. You know, it has coolant. Most of them do not have coolant. They're air cooled. But in that one you can. And a lot of people Subaru swap them because they already
yeah.
have the coolant lines. If you want like modern reliability with like a classic Volkswagen, that is a super good option. and you'll still probably be cheaper than a Mercedes. You know, you can buy a Vanagon and pay someone to do a Subaru swap, and then you'll be styling.
You'll be styling.
You'll be styling. Right under that is the white one. That's an air-cooled Westie. And a Westie, there was a company called Westfalia, and they would build camper kits out of these vans. So Volkswagen would send them buses, and they would get built out as campers. So that one is an air-cooled. My dates are slightly wrong on these. So the air-cooled Westie, no, I think it's right. 1980 to 83. And then halfway through 83, they went to the other one I showed you, the gold one, up in the middle top, that has coolant. They did make a Riviera, which is the bottom right corner. The whole pop top goes up. And then the top right is the coveted Synchro. They are 4-wheel drive.
That is our dream.
They're pretty expensive, but they are very cool. 4-wheel drive. I've seen guys pull trucks out of snow, trucks that were stuck, and they used their Vanagon to pull like an F-150 out of the snow.
Yeah, Synchros
they're pretty cool. They are
epic.
Still slow, but they are very cool, and you can get them in pop-top campers as well. So that's kind of, there's a lot of different options in Vanagons. Vanagons, like I said, are closer to modern, but you really want to have a budget to upgrade a lot of like the electronics and old plastics and stuff like that, because most of these haven't been restored because they're new enough to where they haven't had parts restored very well, but they're still old. So, they don't have super good diagnostic stuff on them like modern cars.
Mm-hmm.
Now the next category is the bay window. That is kind of the first bus that you wanted, right?
Yeah, that's like all I saw online.
Yeah,
and that's what
James Barkman drove on. We know him now. Like we've gone on trips with him. So the bay window, they call it a bay window because it has a gigantic, huge curved windshield. I mean, that windshield is like a space station. It's so big.
Yeah, once you get used to driving in a Vita bus, I mean any Vita bus really, and you go into a modern car, you're like, you feel like there's like you're like, I can't see anything, and you just feel like very compact.
Yeah.
And funny thing, me and Jake, after traveling in this Vita bus, we get so sick being in modern cars.
Yeah,
there's
it's weird.
Something about them that like we can only look out the window, and even then we're like,
yeah, we kind of get like queasy driving in a modern car. Maybe it's because of how fast they are. Or something.
Yeah,
we're just used to
fast.
being slow. So bay windows, 68 to 79, and there were kind of two categories. So there was an early bay, which our green one in that slide before, you can see that's an early bay. The green one, the pop top usually went opposite. You can see it hinges from the front. The taillights were different. Some of the indicators were different. And the big thing that was different is the motor. That motor right there is my baby. The Type 1 motor is so incredible. It is look how small it is. I mean, I almost can pick the whole thing up by myself, like deadlift. Like they are tiny. And the carburetor is right there. Everything is right out in the open. You can access anything with a couple of bolts. They are so easy to diagnose. They're not fuel injected. So they are carbureted. I know someone earlier, this goes back to someone's question in the beginning, is the engine fuel injected or carbureted? The Vanagons, almost all of them were fuel injected. Some people would put carburetors on them, but factory they were fuel injected. The early bay windows were carbureted. So they still had the older technology. And then in 72, 73 were kind of hybrid vans, right? So they kind of started adding things that were new into them. So they still had the Type 1 motor. They kind of did a transition. And then the late bay is kind of considered, 73 is when it was finally like solidified. And if you look at it, they're usually brighter colors. They're usually like lime green, bright orange, bright yellow, bright red. Like they pop. Not the biggest fan of
No, but they're still cute. I mean, we traveled in one in Hawaii, and
No, the one in Hawaii was an early bay too.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. Okay, don't be mad. Or I'm not into the whole technical thing. That's
Yeah.
Jake's thing.
Our second
Vans are
build,
vans.
well, the second van we built, we'll show you later, was a late bay, and the motor is down there, and it completely was changed.
I do remember that.
It was
It's different.
completely changed. Like, look at that. That's not even the same motor. Some of them were carbureted, and then I think they switched to fuel injection sometime in the 70s. I don't remember exactly what year. But they were more powerful. It was an upgraded motor, but it's a little harder to work on. Parts for them are more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
If something goes wrong with them, it can be finicky to diagnose. Like when the electronics of one of those old things, because they started to go to fuel injection, which was a little more complicated. So a little more tricky to work on, but they had probably the most dialed camper interior.
Yeah.
They were by that time the camper interiors were solid.
Which one would you prefer out of the two motors?
Out
of reliability and
out of the two, you know, the late bay drives better. It does. They went to disc brakes, so
disc brakes are
they
nice.
stop a little better.
Oh yeah, because
They're a little they're a little faster. But I prefer the early bay with the Type 1 motor.
Easier for you to work on.
Yeah, the motor's really easy to work on. Parts are really cheap. You find more mechanics that can work on them because a lot of people owned Beetles, and it's the same. That's the cool
true.
thing. The cool thing about the early bay and the Type 1 motors, you can pull it out and put it in a Beetle and drive the Beetle away. It's pretty cool. The next thing is a split window. These are the
He's a little biased.
creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme.
They are so beautiful.
Creme de la creme?
I don't know. But 1950 is when, like, think about that. 1950. This is like barely after World War II. You know, Hitler actually saw the design of the Beetle, which is kind of your family, one of your family members calls Volkswagen's Hitler's Revenge. Take it as maybe because there's so many breakdowns, you know, that's how Hitler gets revenge, I guess, but I don't know. It's dumb. But split window buses are probably the priciest. They are the oldest.
There's a lot more, I feel like, would you call them fanatics?
Yes. It's kind of like with Jeeps or Land Rovers. The split window is like the coveted bus, right?
Yeah.
It's like the collector item. 1950 to 55 is extremely, extremely rare. I mean, like only a couple thousand in the United States per year. Like, they are so expensive and so rare. I would not recommend one. And the parts, they do not buy one pre-55. You're paying over $100,000 usually.
Yeah.
They are so rare. They're called barn door buses. They're cool. They're so cool. I would not recommend getting
a couple in real life.
I've only seen a couple. The motors, just to give you an idea, the motor on like a 1950 barn door bus was like 26 horsepower.
Okay, well,
26 horsepower.
what do motors have? Or
You know, modern cars are in the hundreds.
mowers have now?
Like you could get a lawnmower that has more power, you guys. I think the top speed from factory was like 40 miles an hour, 45. Top speed, like you're full speed. You know, the 50s they weren't going 100 miles an hour.
No.
You know?
That's too scary.
So, we'll go into they had a kind of a variety. Top left, tin tops. And then right to the next of that, Westie campers, very expensive. The original Westfalia campers, very cool but very expensive. Panel vans. It's a panel van, no windows.
Cool.
So
They're cool though.
You know what's cool?
Panel vans.
Oh, panel vans are cool. Our buddy had one. You've seen it, one kind of like that on our page. People would cut out windows in the 50s and 60s and put like camper windows in them. So those are cool. You can insulate them a little bit better if you want. Our friend thought it felt kind of like a cave, though. He didn't have a lot of windows.
Yeah, it definitely did.
And then you've got single cabs and double cabs. We had a single cab. We actually thought about building like a truck camper.
We'll do that in the future, I'm sure. We'll get tired of our new bus.
That would be so cool. But for the most part, they're a little slower. But they're so cool. I mean, that's like anytime you see a T-shirt or anything, they have split window buses on them. You know, the toys, they're always split window
Yeah.
buses. To kind of, I'm sure, you know, if price-wise in buses, so just to give you guys an idea, you can get really good deals. People on
Oh,
our
yeah.
Instagram or TikTok will be like, "You guys are rich trust fund babies. Like, you got these buses for." We've never paid more than like most of our buses that we've bought were under 10,000,
Most.
which is like way cheaper than like a Sprinter.
Yeah, I mean,
Way cheaper.
like with buses, you just kind of, you really have to know what you're looking for. Obviously,
Yeah.
with Layla, I think we got kind of scammed with
I
our
didn't
money.
know what I was looking for. So buses, Vanagons usually in good shape with not a lot of rust sell for 10 to 25,000. Okay?
If you're lucky, you can find it less.
You can find it less, and
If you're
we found
lucky.
ours less. Our orange one was like 7,000. Huh?
Brown.
It's Ashwan brown. It looks orange.
It
But
looks orange?
our Vanagon, it's
Oh, I think peanut.
no.
Peanut.
Our Vanagon, yeah, it's
Oh,
orange.
Yeah, that's orange.
So like
What?
10 to 20,000, 25,000, you can get one running and driving. Bay windows, usually a little more. 15,000 to about 25,000. Don't get me wrong, you guys. Someone said I can't get them for that price in the Netherlands.
It's rare.
It depends. Like, so people will post them for as much as they want. Like, I've seen buses that were $25,000 that people listed for like 80. So like,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's gonna sell, right? So I'm talking about like what they're kind of regularly going for. Bay windows are usually running and driving 10 to 30, usually a little more than Vanagons. Split windows are usually 20 and above. I have found some running and driving for 15, 16, 17, but they are usually a little more, and they go like up to 100 grand, like I've said, but
Yeah.
the average is probably 20 to 40. That's like
For a split.
for a good clean split. Yeah. That's kind of, it varies based off of how rare the model is, the year, the color. But for all of you that are thinking about a VW, the most expensive thing, believe it or not, is rust.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Rust will kill you. You could get a bus for $5,000 that's rusted like crazy.
It's
And
just not worth your money.
It could cost you $40,000 to do all the metal work. So you really want to look. You don't want like bulging in the side of it because it could be Bondo.
You don't want to bond
hiding
baby.
rust. Look for signs of Bondo. Rust never sleeps. Amen,
That's
dude.
a good logo.
That's what they say, dude. It's bad. So you're looking for one that doesn't have a ton of rust. Surface rust is fine. Like our new bus looks rusty, but it's not.
Yeah.
Surface rust is fine, but we're talking about cancer, like on the frame, underneath, any holes, like
It's
that's bad.
Yeah.
Like we've gotten up into a bus before and almost like fell through the seat because it was just a giant rust pit.
Yikes. Not safe.
Yeah, so we kind of want to transition a little bit. If you guys have more bus questions specifically, type them in the chat. If you have questions about years or like anything like that.
Surface rust.
Surface
it's like
rust.
You have a you don't even have a photo.
I wonder if I have a okay, so
There
see
you
this bus right here. Okay. Do you see the bumper and the logo? That is rusted.
Would you
but
call it patina?
a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's patina." So it's just on the surface.
Yeah.
Meaning it's not super
metal.
pitted. So when it's pitted, it's starting to eat into the metal and there's starting to be holes. Surface rust means if you get sandpaper or a wire wheel, you could just like take it off and then paint it.
But it's a vibe, so don't.
We kind of like it a little bit crusty. That's
Crusty and
part of the reason
rusty.
why we sold Layla. We wanted one that looked a little more off-road, tough looking.
Yeah, one that we could beat up and not like be mad if we had like a scratch. But
Yeah, we go like off-roading a lot. So if we have one that's super shiny, like I know a lot of other VW influencer people have really clean buses and all their shots are clean, but like I'm driving through trees and through the
Yeah.
ocean and like
It's just not worth it for us.
I need a bus that's like I'm not afraid to scratch.
Yeah, and we have 2 dogs that don't understand that they can't jump on
Yeah.
the bus. And so, yeah. That's our interior builds. We built 2 so far, interior wise.
It's like full interiors.
Yeah,
We've
we
helped
fixed
with
up-
a lot of other people's.
Yeah, and we fixed up multiple
Yeah.
multiple buses, but
Yeah, we've done like we've gotten met a lot of buses running and driving. Even a Beetle. We've done paint. We've done body work. We've done mechanical. But we've had 2 buses where we built out the interiors for full-time living.
the license plate patch is the best. I don't know if you guys can see. What was it? Shauna Miller.
We patched our Shauna Miller. We patched our holes with license plates. We'll see how it goes. We also removed all excess before patching it. It's funny. One of our friends has a Beetle that has so much rust.
Yeah.
He just decked the whole inside where his feet are with license plates.
I love the look.
It's cool. It looks so cool. You know, like, yeah. So question from a non-mechanical person, Stacy Early. If you off-road, is it like 4-wheel drive so you don't get stuck? Only the Vanagons had 4-wheel drive from the factory. These cars, even though they don't have 4-wheel drive, they do really well off-road. The weight is in the back. The motor's in the back. They're pretty light vehicles. They have more clearance than like a modern truck.
Yeah, like we've driven crazy roads where like our family's cabin, we drove up to it. Everyone didn't think we'd make it because we're
to your family's cabin.
Yeah, we're in an old bus, but they're capable.
Yeah, they are very capable off-road, and you know, a lot of it is driving, like knowing how to drive, knowing how to navigate, and part of that just comes from experience and practice. Obviously, it will not do as well as like a Jeep Gladiator or something like that.
Yeah.
But for how old they are and for what they are, they're pretty capable.
And so to move on with our interior builds, first one.
How long did it take you to build out the interior?
So this first one was Peanut.
Layla.
Layla. I'm
Our
so sorry.
first bus.
These videos, not that they don't work, but we can see kind of the interior. We have a wood burning stove. Guys, do not, if you're looking into building a bus or into live in, do not skip out on heat. It was like almost like a fight when in van life in the beginning, because Jake was like, we need heat, and I was like, no, I can tough it out, like I can do it. No, you can't. Like, I would recommend at least one source of heat. Like a diesel heater is really good. We love this wood stove because it's just cozy and
it's so awesome.
Yeah, it's actually saved us quite a bit.
Like she said, she was expecting to just be on beaches every day, but our first year we were like in a lot of cold places. And this ties in with just van life in general, you guys. A heat source, having more than one, so helpful, you know. We have a diesel heater so that we could turn on a remote, set a temperature, awesome. But we did have one instance where our diesel heater stopped working and we got stuck going a little too crazy in the snow.
Yeah.
In a blizzard. And the only way we had heat was the wood stove.
I can't imagine going through that without it.
I know. And but the caveat to that is like a wood stove, you have to be very careful. It is a fire hazard. You have to take the necessary precautions for spacing. Do your research with a wood stove, but it is so incredible to have the feeling of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels alive.
It does. And so our interiors, we try to maximize space as much as we can. I wish I could like point, but in the third photo video, you can see those 2 cabinets. That's where our food was, and it also pulled out into a kitchenette, and so we could cook outside. And then right by it was our water. To the left of it was our water system.
Sink. Yeah, the third photo from the right, you can see the sink right up there. Sorry, those were videos. We were going to show you videos, but they're not working.
Yeah, and then, so you just really try to maximize space. And to answer your question about what wood do you use?
Purified gin, what kind of wood do you use for lightweight? In our first two builds, we
We
used
did.
cedar tongue and groove.
Yeah, those are really good. Everyone uses them. Super easy to work with. And then
Yeah.
our cabinets are
Very easy to work with.
what are our cabinets
Our
made out of?
cabinets are, I think, in Layla we did 1/2 inch plywood.
Yeah.
So we were concerned with weight because it's a light car.
Uh-huh.
So the cedar tongue and groove are 1/4 inch panels, and you can put them on and they fit together. It was really, really easy to do the walls and the
That's what we
ceiling.
did with our flooring as well. So the whole thing was tongue and
Yeah,
groove.
we did tongue and groove. Even on the floors, you guys, you heard me. It's a soft wood, but
Yeah.
we kind of wanted it to get like beat up and look old. If you want a really strong wood for the floor, go like with walnut or maple or
Yeah, it
or
got a lot of dings.
vinyl flooring. We don't like vinyl flooring. We like real wood.
Yeah. And then here is our second build, Peanut. I felt like we had more of an idea of like what was necessary.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You learn through your builds. The more builds you do, the more you learn. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this worked and this didn't.
yeah, like this. I'm like pointing the
Second
second photo. This is a personal preference. I really think if you are building out a bus, always have the stove right by the
It helps to have
door.
it by the door
yeah.
because it's nice to open the door if you're like cooking bacon in the morning or something.
Yeah, you don't want it in the bus.
Yeah.
And it's just so nice. That's actually in our new build I told Jake it's a priority is, well, one, because that's the only place we can stand in our new bus.
Yeah.
But two, it's so nice because you can be outside kind of and cook.
And this kind of goes back to what we said, like doing a test run, rent a van or do something, because you'll soon find out like, oh, I don't like having a portable stove. I want a permanent one. Because we built Layla, and in our mind we were like, let's do a portable one. The countertop lifted up, and you would put it in there, so it was really clean. You couldn't see it. But when it ended up happening is if we wanted tea in the middle of the night, I didn't want to
it's
like
so
open up
annoying.
this thing, pull it out, hook up a propane tank. I just wanted to throw water on a stove. So like when we built Peanut out, we built a permanent stovetop, and we're going to do that in our new build.
Yeah,
And
it was a really good.
The other thing was like water. In Layla,
Oh yeah, we didn't have. Oh, that was so
we had
annoying.
a big sink, like
Well-
really deep.
Well, not only that, just like water system, like you have to think of so many things. Like, okay, well, if I need water, I'm gonna have to take this water jug out.
We
Like,
did a
that's so annoying.
portable fresh water because we were like, oh, anywhere we are, we can pull it out and go get water.
Yeah,
But-
but it's the worst. So,
Sometimes it wasn't fun.
oh, it wasn't fun at all.
Yeah.
So in Peanut, what we did, I don't have any photos of it that I put on,
Yeah.
but you did
I did a permanent water tank, and
Yeah.
I did a fill port behind the driver's side. So you'd open the driver's door, hook a hose up, fill it up, and there was a gauge on there, an electric gauge that I put in. So it was a little more like streamlined, and we really ended up liking that, which we'll probably do for our new bus.
Oh yeah, I'm making it a must.
Yeah. Electrical.
Do not skip out on electrical.
If you're gonna live in a van, that is probably the most expensive thing you'll spend money on. Just
Yeah.
saying. Other than the actual bus itself, like the interior, the electrical. We have had so many friends, like in the middle of van life meetups, like, hey, can I charge my computer,
Yeah, like when we go
like
to
with your van?
Yeah, when we go to descend, I like walk my bus and I'm like, okay, like there's so many things that are being charged and I don't even know who they belong
Yeah.
to. Just it's almost like it's so awesome just knowing that like people can rely
Yeah.
on us for
And
that.
a lot of people do the portable power banks, and I didn't know anything about electrical. This should give you confidence. I didn't know anything. I did a lot of research, did a lot of digging, a lot of learning, and I, built it really well and clean with 2 bus bars, a battery shunt, the 12-volt fuse panel, solar charge controller, we did a inverter and a DC to DC charger. I think we had 2 100 amp lithium batteries, and we never had a problem with power. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a music producer, so I work out of the van a lot, and I would power a full Mac desktop,
That was
an
crazy.
audio interface, and all this music gear, no problem. So it really pays to do your research and build yourself an electrical system that's more than what you think you need, because it is definitely worth it.
It is so worth it. I was afraid of it at first just because I've seen so many people like
Yeah.
blow up their buses,
I
but
don't want to light my bus on fire,
Yeah.
kind of thing. We went up
do
and
your
got like
research.
all the wire we used. We went a size higher for safety, and in between every single thing we had reusable trips or fuses or So
Yeah.
We got another question. We'll answer a couple questions really quick. Purified Gin, I notice your fireplace. How do you insure that, since many insurance companies will not insure wood stoves and fireplaces? We're totally always insured.
You don't got to tell them everything, okay? They just know you have a beat up bus. There you go.
A funny story. One of our buddies doesn't insure any of his vehicles or registers them, and he's been pulled over multiple times. I can't say who, but he has like vintage plates on him, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I just bought this, got it running," and they let him go every time.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
We do insure them.
We do insure them, and we do register them. We use Geico, but this is the tricky thing. Like, we did not say that we put a wood stove in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to mention it, honestly.
For us, I was like, why do they need to know everything I put in my car?
Yeah.
I just told them that it was a camper, So, couple other questions. Did you insulate the walls? Yes, we used Havelock wool for the insulation.
Is so awesome because
incredible.
It's flame retardant, mold free.
Very good stuff.
Look into Havelock wool. What is the size of the DC to DC Victron?
What is the size of the DC to DC Victron, and did you burn out your alternator? So that is a question that it depends. Both vans had different sizes of alternators, so I got different sizes for each one. So you do need to make sure, I think, Vanagons are, I can't remember how many amps they are. You'd have to check on a Vanagon. I know a bay window's around 65 amps. So you kind of plan what size of DC to DC bases based off of that.
What did you put in?
I can't remember which one I put in. And then in the early buses, Type 1s, they had generators, which were like 25, 30 amps. So you had to get a really small DC to DC charger. You base it off of the amp size of your alternator, and then what kind of batteries you have, and you kind of make the choice based off of that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but so at the end, we only have 8 more minutes. So if you have any other questions about Volkswagens, throw them on there. About Volkswagens, van life, anything. The last little bit, we kind of wanted to talk about like what's next. We did just announce
a baby is on the way.
We have a baby coming.
So we will be doing a van life with a newborn baby in our new bus. We're stoked about it. We've seen a couple people do it, and so
your faces are covering what you highly recommend. Sorry. We recommend investing in a good electrical system.
Electrical system.
Don't cheap out on electrical. And then someone else had a question. Is your Victron a smart DC to DC charger? I think it was. Yeah. So Tiana's pregnant. She's 7 months pregnant. Yeah. So in 2 months, we're going to have a baby. And we just announced that on our Instagram, at Hippie Snap for TikTok and Instagram. We are also going to be launching a YouTube, you guys. Yeah. So it'll be a lot more personal. You'll see us day to day, day in, day out.
You'll see more like the realistic, because like YouTube, Instagram is more like picture perfect. Right. But YouTube, you'll see like what actually goes into living in one of these things.
Yeah. So we're gonna learn together what it's gonna be like with a baby. Our new bus is a 57 palm green, sand green, split window bus.
So it's a lot smaller.
It's smaller than a Vanagon or a Bay, but we're building it to kind of accommodate a baby. And like I said, we're going to do YouTube, and we'll continue posting on Instagram and TikTok as well. The YouTube will start off on how we got the bus. We drove way up to Canada to get it. And
so cool.
Such a long drive, 36-hour drive.
Yeah.
To get that bus. And so it's kind of that journey. And then the first few videos are actually doing the metal work. So like we're doing the welding on this bus, then we're doing a full mechanical restoration. There's not a ton of videos on YouTube about working on these buses. So I think it'll be helpful to try to show that to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it's done, we're going to take off again. Time frame wise, we're actually done with metal pretty much. We're going to be paint matching this week.
Whoa, really?
Uh-huh.
I mean, maybe.
Paint matching, yep. So we're going to match the paint.
And I don't know her name or his name. How do you think the baby will adapt to it? I don't know if it's more of adapting. It's just going to be his life, you know? Like he doesn't right?
Yeah,
like,
think
he's
about
not
like there's been like nomadic cultures all over the world that travel and live in tents, and I think it might be easier just starting off with that lifestyle.
Yeah. It'll be easier. And I don't know, personally, we're the type of people that we can't stay put. Say we were in a house or an apartment, I think we'd go crazy, and I couldn't do it. But
yeah.
I think it'll be a little harder with the baby, but I think that's life, man.
Yeah.
You just grow and you adapt. And
the awesome thing is that both of us will be able to like help raise him. You know, we work, you know, through social media and brand deals, and then my music producing, we kind of are in control of our schedule and stuff like that. So we'll both be able to be with the baby. I'll be able to help Tiana more than if I was at a 9 to 5. So we'll be able to spend a lot of quality time. And I think about like the future when our baby grows up and like looks back, and there's all of this documentation about his life as a baby and his parents. Cool. I think it'll just be extremely special for him.
Yeah, and Craig, we are not going to do a Subi swap,
nope.
Even though, would that be amazing? Yes, but...
Tiana wishes I would, but
no, I like it.
I'm too much of a Volkswagen gearhead.
Yeah.
We are not doing a stock motor because the stock motor for our bus is like 36 horsepower. It's very tiny. We're putting in a motor I built, an 1835. We do like going nice and slow, and I love working on those Type 1 motors. So
they're fun.
Yeah. So were you deadheads in the day?
I don't think
we get asked this so much, dude.
We do? I'm sorry, but I just...
We are not deadheads, but we have a lot of friends that are obsessed.
Who travel
their
concerts.
And go to concert to concert. Yeah, I do like their music. Funny. I'm a musician. I'm a music producer. I love their music, but I'm not like a cult follower, you know.
Yeah. And I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. The person...
Icaro Abreu?
Yeah, well, that's so cool that you're going to live in a Vita bus. I wish you all the luck. Feel free to message us if you ever have any questions. Yeah. I mean, we're there all the time.
Yeah. So for any of you that, you know, have any other, you know, if you have further questions or want any advice about a build or how to, you know, fit a build in a bus, how to work on a bus, any type of mechanical advice, reach out to us on Instagram, you know, Hippie Snap.
You don't have to buy a packet from us.
Yeah, we're
we'll
not
give it to you for free.
We're not selling anything. I've helped so many people with Volkswagens, and so many people have helped me that I just like to pass that along, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of like, what do you call it? The mantra of living in a Vita bus. Just pass it along.
Yeah, that's kind of like our whole journey has been more about the people we've met and the experiences we've had, and not as much, you know, people think van life is like, oh, all these sites, but it was the most memorable things have been relationships we've made, people we've helped, and just pass it on, you know, and like help freely and love freely.
Yeah.
And, you know, keep following us. And
message us whenever you like. We love messaging people about our journeys and any questions you have. So. Yeah,
and that's pretty much it. We thank you guys for tuning in, and, you know, like we said, the Volkswagen community is incredible. And the last thing that I want to emphasize is people say they're unreliable. They're only unreliable if you don't
know what you're doing.
Work on them. If you are a driven person and you're willing to learn, you can do van life out of a Volkswagen, and it will be an incredible learning experience. So, thanks for sharing. Now I'm looking at VWs again. Don't tell my wife. There you go.
Don't tell my
I've bought in so many Volkswagens, so
Yeah,
you
Jake
just want to buy
says,
more and more
ask
and
for
more.
forgiveness, not permission. Don't tell your wife I said that. But that's his thing.
All right, you guys, thank you for tuning in. You know, we wish you the best of luck on your van
Follow
life
us.
journey. And yeah, stay tuned. We'll see you.